genre.
Hey guys, this is Scott. Just a heads up about this episode. We had, first of all, it's late, so apologies for that. But the reason is because I was trying to figure out an audio problem that we were having with Cassandra's mic for 2/3 of this, and there's about a 10-minute section around the 35-minute mark where Nick's mic starts doing this weird Dalek-y thing, which, despite us talking about Daleks a lot on this show, was not intentional. So I couldn't figure out a way to fix it. It's unfortunate. Cassandra sounds like she's coming to us live from a sewer drain of some sort for about 2/3 of it. It's not great. And those 10 minutes with Nick, luckily he's not doing the recapping during that section, so it's not a lot of Nick, but it is really annoying, and I apologize, but I thought it would be better to go ahead and release it than for us to attempt to redo it and it not be, us not be as excited about it or whatever. So this is just what it is, and I apologize. But we'll be back in just a few days, because this is late. I want to double release this week some episodes, so that's something. We'll be back later this week with Ambassadors of Death, and everything should be fine there. So in the meantime, enjoy the episode. To the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who The Long Way Around, the weekly podcast where we discuss and recap every episode of Doctor Who, one Doctor at a time. I'm Scott Corelli.
I'm Nick Menace.
And I'm Cassandra Fredrickson.
And today on the show we'll be discussing the Underwater Menace, the second Doctor's third story.
It made it sound like and we will be discussing the underwater menace that has been plaguing our city. So
do
we have any news to discuss, Scott?
Well, we do. We have a premiere date for class.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be talking about. We're going to be doing like a special episode, reviewing the first episode when that airs. So look out for that. So that's coming soon. I think that's like October 21st or something like that.
Well, that's right? When it premieres in the UK.
22nd, October 22nd. Yeah.
Doesn't it premiere in America like in March or something?
It premieres in America the same night that Doctor Who comes back. So
okay, so like
question mark,
undecided as of yet. That class is undeclared.
Right. Exactly. And then, oh man, there was something else that I wanted to mention, but now I forgot what it was. And there
was that cool picture of Peter Capaldi that leaked. It didn't leak; it was released. But
yeah, it wasn't that. It was something. I thought it was something Classic Who related. I don't remember. I'm gonna search it in news, but
Patrick Troughton's still alive. It turns out.
Yeah,
they found him.
Amazing.
We got our first. Details about the Christmas special.
Oh, really? I haven't heard this.
Yeah, well, they said that there won't be an interim companion for Doctor Who for the Christmas special. So, like, our new companion, what's her name? Frank? Bob? Yeah. What's her name?
Bill.
Bill won't be her first episode is going to be the first episode of the next season, so not in the Christmas special.
Oh, so this will be a Doctor solo adventure.
Right. It says there will be no interim companion. However, the one Cartman looking dude is going to come back.
Oh yeah, homeboy from Little Britain.
Right.
Oh,
that guy's coming back.
Dude.
Yep, the one I hate. Yeah, he's coming back for the Christmas special.
The roommate from Bridesmaids.
And the Christmas special will apparently involve a superhero.
Oh yeah.
Whatever that means.
Do we have a title?
No. No title.
It's literally the Doctor meets Batman.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Has the Doctor ever met a superhero before?
Yes, but no spoilers on to when that happens.
Okay.
Not
counting Pex.
I want you, right, not counting Pex. But I don't want to spoil it for you because I want you to experience it as I did, which was by complete surprise.
So good.
It's so good. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. I cannot remember. I can't find this Classic Who news that I thought I saw.
Is this going to be the first? I'm trying to think of Doctor Who Christmas specials.
And Justin Chatwin is playing the superhero.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Goku himself.
Yeah, Goku, Shameless.
What if it is Goku? What if?
Oh my god!
What if Moffat is just this closet, like, massive fan of the Dragon Ball Evolution movie?
I'm Goku. I would slow clap. Goku.
Oh wow!
Oh man!
Hitfix's headline for this is it says, what did it say? Hold on, it changed when I clicked on it. It says it really sounds like Batman might be in the Doctor Who Christmas special.
Justin Chatwin would make a terrible Batman.
Well, it's not going to be like Batman.
It'd be a good Nightwing.
What if? Oh my God! What if like it's like this crazy thing where the Christmas special ends up being like Lego Doctor Who?
Shut up! Let me say.
Oh, like it's all animated.
Yeah, and it's like Lego Batman.
Oh, Lego Goku, and then you just like, hey guys, Kamehameha, right? Well, if we are exploring the possibilities of Doctor Who meeting Son Goku, there are a couple of really strong story possibilities. It could be about the Doctor trying to save the planet of Vegeta, which of course would mean that he might have to go toe to toe with Lord Frieza, which would be incredible.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Or he could also, I guess the other biggest planet, I guess, would be Namek. So he could travel to Namek and meet like Master Guru, I think was his name. Remember that big fat Namek guy?
Mm-hmm.
The last one.
Anyway, yeah, he's some kind of superhero. I assume it has something to do with, like, if I had to guess based on the little bit of detail that we have, it's going to be something where it's like some kid wishes that his, action figure is real because his dad is dead or something. And then
it's typical Christmas stuff.
Yeah. Like the action figure comes to life and it's Justin Chatwin and
it's just Justin Chatwin action figure comes to life.
Right. I assume it's going to be something like that. I don't know.
I wish my Robbie from War of the Worlds action figure was real.
Apparently, apparently the script for the Christmas special made what's his name cry, the other Sherlock guy.
Oh, Gatiss.
Yeah, Gatiss cried on a train because that's apparently the only time that Gatiss or Moffat read scripts at all, or when they're on a train. Every time they talk about having read a script, they're like, "So I was on the train."
I think that's
I just picture Mark Gatiss like living on a train.
Yeah.
Hello.
He's got like an office on his train. On the train.
He's got like a little like.
I think they've actually talked about it before. I think they do treat train rides as like an office. Like they get on a train and then they just ride it back and forth for the day.
What? Sounds awesome. We should do that, Scott.
Yeah, I know. Well, we've talked about that before. I think.
Oh man,
we've talked about doing that before.
LA doesn't have public transport though.
That's true.
What if Mark Gatiss just turns out it's like I love Dragon Ball Z and the way that Steven wrote Goku was.
There's nothing funnier than the idea of a Doctor Who Dragon Ball Z crossover. What if Dragon Ball Evolution was just really huge in England and it was just like
they loved it.
Oh my god, it's like Goku is like the new Paddington Bear over there.
Oh my god.
Daddy, get me a Goku doll.
Anyway,
just the doctor.
Yeah, I can't. It was something I heard. I don't remember what it is, so I'll just have to save it for next week, I guess. But yeah, so
I just love the idea of Mark Gatiss in like a smoking jacket and like an easy chair sipping brandy and just watching Dragon Ball Z. Yes. Oh, we'll be taking out the Ginyu Force in this episode.
I love that joke, that Dragon Ball Z joke of it's just like it'll take like Goku like 6 episodes to charge his power.
Oh, totally. No, it's the worst.
And he just screams the whole time. So it'll be like previously on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Today on Dragon Ball Z. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. The worst was when my mom would be like, Nick, you have to get your homework done. I'm like, Mom, I can't. It's Dragon Ball Z. Like, okay, you can watch Dragon Ball Z today, but you can't watch it tomorrow. And then, it would just be a freaking power-up episode the whole time. And then I'd be like, no. And then I would miss the next episode, which would be when they would actually like punch something.
Your mom wouldn't let you wouldn't let you watch your stories?
Yeah, no. Well, I had to choose because, Toonami would just air everything in a block. So I would have to choose because the Dragon Ball Z was always like the last one.
Yeah.
Sailor Moon was always the first. My dad used to come home from work.
No, it was because there was 4 and it was Sailor Moon. I don't remember what the second thing was. And then it was Dragon Ball Z because the last one was always Reboot.
Oh, it was always Reboot. God, that was weird.
Yeah.
I feel like it was interchangeable because like later on it would be like Yu Yu Hakusho, which I was also really interested in.
Right. That was post Sailor Moon though, I think.
Rurouni Kenshin.
Right.
Remember that one?
No. That was past my time.
It's like a redheaded samurai.
Nope. Past my time. I was in that Sailor Moon Dragon Ball Z reboot era.
Sailor Moon would always be on right as my dad would come home from work.
Of course.
And he would always like open the door and be like, guys, I'm home. And you just see his young son on the floor watching Sailor Moon. And he'd be like, I don't get it. I don't get what's happening. I want to be like Sailor Mercury, Dad.
Well, today on the show, we will be discussing Doctor Who, and it will be an episode titled "The Underwater Menace." But we got some background on this episode. So
can we end this episode with the Dragon Ball Z music?
I have. Okay. So the first thing is that Underwater Menace is written by Jeffrey Orm and directed by Julia Smith, one of the very few female directors to ever work on the show. And
what do you mean ever?
Yeah. So Jeffrey Orm had never written for Doctor Who before, and this script, which was originally called Under the Sea, and then eventually turned into a story called The Fish People, and then finally the Underwater Menace. But they asked him to write an episode. He pitched this episode. This was actually the last script he ever wrote as a professional screenwriter before retiring and then dying in 1978, so about 10 years later.
Oh.
So what happened was there was like a lot of like rejiggering with the directors because Hugh David, who went on to direct The Highlanders, he was originally slated to direct this story, but he read the script and he said that it was literally impossible to make this story on the budget of Doctor Who. And so he refused to make it. So they gave him The Highlanders instead, which was like way more up his alley. So they did he did The Highlanders, and they pushed this story to the third story. And then gave it to Julia Smith. Well, Julia Smith was going to direct the next story, which was called The Imps, but then The Imps got canceled, so then they bumped her up to direct this story. So she directs this story, and a couple of things that were during all of this nonsense. There was some other changes, because one of the big ones was that Jamie McCrimmon was introduced in The Highlanders, and they decided to make him a full-time companion. And so the script had to be rewritten to include Jamie in it, which is why Jamie doesn't do a whole lot in this story. Not a whole lot. It's mostly Ben and Polly doing things. And Jamie like kind of just commenting on the things that everyone else is doing.
Saying Highlander things.
Which is great. That's grade A Jamie. I mean, I love when Jamie does things, but I also love when Jamie comments on things more than anything.
Snarky Jamie is the best.
Oh yeah, it's great. So very last minute, Jamie was brought on board as a full-time companion. And when he was brought on board as a full-time companion and they rewrote the story with Jamie, everyone loved Jamie and everything that he was doing in the script. And they were like, you know what we don't need?
Polly.
We don't need Polly. We don't need Polly. She's not working. Let's get her out of here. She's not interesting in the way that Jamie is. So they're going to get rid of Polly. And then they realize that if they get rid of Polly, Ben literally has nothing to do, because the only thing that he ever does is protect and or rescue Polly. So they're going to get rid of both of them. Very short-lived companions, these two.
They're kind of the Jan and Jaina of Doctor Who companions.
Well, because they did like, what, 2 or 3 stories with Hartnell?
I think so.
Yeah, so like I think they end up only doing like 5 or 6 stories like total. It's really crazy.
Yeah. So Jamie really kind of poochied the show for a little bit.
A little bit, except that he doesn't go back to his home planet. He stays around.
So kind of like a reverse poochie.
Yeah. In fact, he ends up being involved in the Doctor going back to his home planet. Eventually. So that was the plan. And then the other thing was that they planned on they decided with this story that they wanted to redo the title sequence. And they were hoping to have it done for this story, but they didn't, and they actually don't end up finishing it until the Macra Terror, which is like 2 stories from now. So that's all interesting as far as like the production goes. And then when it was broadcast, this story is really funny. So it was broadcast on January 14th, and they got an angry letter. BBC got an angry letter for the first story from a Mrs. N. Safford of the National Society for the Welfare of Children in Hospitals.
Oh
God!
So the NSWCH.
The Nafusfa.
Yeah. And she was concerned that the sight of Polly undergoing an operation to turn her into a fish person would scare children with upcoming surgeries who might think that they would also risk waking up to find themselves transformed into monsters.
What?
Yeah. She was like, if children watch this and are going into surgery, they'll think that they'll wake up and be fish people.
I see. It started to make sense because, like, you know, so in the episode, there's a, you know, the Atlanteans are like trying to force Polly, and they have like a needle up to her arm.
Right. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, sure. And Polly's like whimpering, and I can kind of see like, oh, you know, little kids will see how scared Polly is and get scared about needles. Like, I can kind of, I don't agree with that, but I can kind of see the sense in that.
Right.
But the idea that British children would assume that any operation
Turn them into fish people.
will turn them into fish people, it just seems a little bit sensitive to me.
Yeah.
No offense to this more than likely long dead woman that I'm sure did terrific work for British children.
Right.
But yeah, that's a little silly.
This was also during the production of this story, they used to have a 2-week window where they would record an episode. They would film an episode, and then 2 weeks later it would air. Due to like some like studio stuff, they had to push back filming of the first episode by a week, which meant that this began the 1-week window production time for the show.
Oh.
Yeah. So they would start filming it the week before it aired.
That's messed up.
Which is crazy.
It's like South Park level.
Yeah. So that happened. This is also the last story to feature the Dr. Stovepipe hat. And Troughton's costume in general was reined in this episode. It was much more like baggy and big, and then they sort of like pulled all that back with this story because they just felt that it was too clownish. And so they sort of like, I assume like hemmed his costume to make it better fitted with this story. So,
yeah. We should preface all this with saying that the first episode, the first part of this story was lost in the fire. We actually can't see the first episode.
Yeah. So that was the other thing that I wanted to mention was that this story has a weird background as far as, as far as like what you're talking about. So, essentially what happened with this story is, this is one of the stories that suffered from the thing where the BBC would go and they would erase and reuse old tapes of old episodes of Doctor Who because they just thought, why would anyone ever want to watch any of these ever again? So 3 of the episodes were taped over and only episode 3 existed for like 40 years, something like that. And then a few years ago, they found episode 2. In like Africa or something like that.
Oh right, yeah, that big like discovery from a few years ago.
Right. So they found episode 2. Well, what happened was basically that around that time they had commissioned, when they found the episodes or found episode 2, they commissioned one of the animation companies to animate episodes 1 and 4. And they animated the entirety of episode 1 and started on episode 4, and then the BBC decided they didn't want to do it and wouldn't pay them for the rest of it.
What?
And then they wouldn't give them the completed episode until they paid for the rest of 4, which the BBC refused to do. And now there is an animated version of episode 1 somewhere in the ether. It exists, but BBC is refusing to pay for it and doesn't want to finish production on the 4th one. And so it was just released with episodes 2 and 3 and then 2 reconstructions for episodes 1 and 4. And that's it. So it was it was being attempted to be animated at one point. And I think part of it was that the BBC was like, we're paying too much for this and it sucks. Like, from what I understand, the animation isn't good. Like it's like one of the worst animation houses that they've went to for these reconstruction animations. And so they weren't happy with how it turned out, and that's why they were refusing to pay for at the budget that they were quoted by this animation studio, because they didn't think that the work warranted the cost.
Yeah.
And
there was a really good game of Arsenal that night between Arsenal.
But then they don't have the budget to redo it, so we don't get it now.
Huh.
Yeah. So
it's lost.
So there
somewhere
you go.
in space between spaces.
Lost again. Good old underwater menace. So I'll say this before we dive into episode 1. I was always told that the Underwater Menace was a bad story.
By who?
I think you know who.
And okay, so
it's phenomenal. Like, I love this story so much. It's got not one but 2 mad scientists.
2 mad scientists?
2 mad scientists. You've got Professor Crazy Eyes, and then you've got Dr. Eyebrows.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Eyebrows and Crazy Eyes.
Uzo Aduba.
Yeah.
No.
Put them together and you have the 12th Doctor. Ew.
Ew. God, Uzo Aduba would be a great Doctor.
To be fair, though, like, because for a really, really long time, only the 3rd episode existed, and that's what you kind of judge a reconstruction by.
Uh-huh.
And, like, the 3rd episode is very, very, very silly. And it's a 3rd episode, so nothing really happens.
Oh, it's so entertaining, though.
But I don't know. I love the story. It's in so bad it's good territory for me. And not a lot of classic Who stories do that for me. Like, either they're like really, really bad, or they're okay, or they're really good. So this one's it's so silly that I can forgive it.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so much fun. I really, really love this. So let's talk about. Why don't you break down episode 1 for us, Cass?
Okay.
Break it down.
Break.
So, Jamie's
Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I meant to be like.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there we
go. So
nobody knows what we're talking about.
There's a conversation off mic.
We're referencing House of Pain's Jump Around.
Yeah.
As featured prominently in the film Bridget Jones's Baby.
Yes.
And now you're up to speed.
Anyway, it's British.
Mm-hmm.
House of Pain's Irish.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But Jamie's Scottish.
Yes.
Yeah. He sure is.
It's kind of his defining characteristic.
I guess I it's funny is obviously he is, but for whatever reason, I never associate him with Scottish. I associate with him with the Highlands and Highlander and like that specific thing.
Sure.
Which feels like a different thing than like, because like I've never associated him with Karen Gillan.
Well, no, because
like
she's
with Amy Pond.
She's like modern Scottish, and Jamie's like
she's like homogenized Scotland.
Right. But like, everyone is always like, oh, like 12 has the Scottish accent because Amy Pond, but maybe it's because of Jamie McCrimmon.
It's actually right? That's weird that we never. Well, it's probably because Jamie is a much more obscure part of Whovian lore than Amy.
As far as in New Who is concerned.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, like new Whovians have no idea that the Doctor once had like a weird Scottish rapscallion Highlander boy, like living in the TARDIS for a few years.
New Whovians have no idea that the man that they're all lusting over in Outlander is based on Jamie McCrimmon.
Right?
Yeah. And I have no idea who that is.
Oh.
Really
well, there you go.
Anyway, so Jamie's in the TARDIS, like fresh off of our Scottish Highland adventure.
Brand spanking new car smell companion.
Yeah.
Has no idea what a car is.
He's like, what's going on? And they're like, well, we're traveling through space and time. And he's like, I'm from the 1700s. I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, oh.
I only know what one of those things are.
Yeah. So they land.
Okay, I all right. So I specifically wrote that moment in my notes because it is. I love it for two reasons. One, I love that they say land. We're about to land, which I don't know what that means in the context of the TARDIS, like, because it just appears. So, like, whenever I think of the TARDIS, I think of it arriving, not landing, really. Like, the only time that I can think of it, like, landing is in 11th Hour.
Right.
Where it, like, crash lands. But I like that they use the phrase land because it's still, like, early days, and so they don't know how to word it properly. Because they don't know how to describe what it is that it's doing.
Can you imagine how much more difficult everything about the show would be if he had to land it, like, physically every time?
I know. Yeah, totally. And then the other thing that I love about that phrase is that when Ben says, oh, we're about to land, Jamie goes, land?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because he wouldn't know what landing means.
Right.
He doesn't have a word for that. Like,
you don't land like a ship, like an actual like ocean vessel.
Right, you would dock it, right?
Yeah. You don't land ho, I guess, would have some kind of thing.
Yeah. I like what they're just like land as a verb. What?
We're about to air.
Yeah, what does that mean? And like at a certain point, Jamie just gives up. He's just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm here. Let's go.
He's like, I'm not drunk enough for this right now. Just deal with it.
Did you guys? Which reconstruction did you guys watch for episode 1?
I watched the one that I found on Dailymotion.
What did you watch, Nick?
I watched the one that you found on Dailymotion, Scott.
The YouTube one or the Dailymotion one for part 1?
The Dailymotion one.
Not the animated one.
Not the animated one.
Dang it! Neither of you watched the animated one.
No.
Oh man.
Did you?
It was so good. Yeah, I did. It was really good. Well, so what they did was they take the still images and they take the backgrounds, like photographs of the backgrounds, and then they take the still images of the people and they move them around the backgrounds. And it's really great. Like, it made the first story so much better because it was really entertaining to watch. And this guy has made a bunch of them. His name's Josh Swears. And he's made like a bunch of Doctor Who reconstructions in this style. And they're really fun to watch. Like, and he would do things where he would film stuff and then use that. So like the part where the Doctor like finds that rock and was like, oh, this rock, it's like made of lava or magma or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he filmed himself wearing like a doctor jacket, like getting down and like picking up a rock and looking at the rock.
That's cool.
And it just I don't know, it like adds something to it.
That's awesome.
It's good. Like, it's really good. I'm sad that neither of you guys watched that part 1. I kept telling you to. Jerks.
I only had time to watch it all the way through once. The one that I saw on Dailymotion kind of did elements of that. Like when they're above the shark pit, it kind of like tilts a little later. And then there's like some stock footage of like some stuff, and like some of there's like these weird, silly like animations. Like, so if there's like a fire, there's just like moving fire, and so it was a little more dynamic than the initial one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, this one was really dynamic. There's a bit where they're so when they're on the rocks, when they're on the cliffs, and then Polly sees something. First of all, the them being on the cliffs, like it's just a still image of like cliffs, and then you just see like these tiny like these tiny like pictures of the characters just sort of like rocking back and forth up the cliff and awesome. Then down and just like kind of like wobble walking like
that's so funny.
It's really cute. So then when Polly sees the thing and she's like, look, you just see they just use this image of a fish person like waving, and it just like crosses the corner of the screen. Like just kind of like pokes out and goes back underwater, and Ben's like, "What?" And she's like, "Look, I saw something." And then it does it again. She's like, "I saw it again."
That's so funny.
It's really great. I recommend watching a few minutes of it just to see.
Yeah, definitely will.
Because I think that's the challenge with a lot of these reconstructions. Like, it really depends on which one you watch.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. This guy does a really good job. I'm going to watch any reconstructions he has from now on. I think.
Yeah, I'll have to watch them in the future.
Yeah.
In the future.
So.
In the year 2000.
The TARDIS lands, and they're on this island, and they kind of, poke about, and they start exploring, and they climb up this hill, and the doctor's like, oh, I'm looking at rocks. And Polly gets tired easily. She like sees something, and then she gets tired. So
she's a lady.
Yeah, I guess. She's just gonna chill out while the boys do boy things. And they leave her next to these like halfway up this hill, and it's by these caves. And she finds a bracelet, and she's like, "Oh, that's weird." And she kind of thinks that it's weird enough, so she starts exploring the cave. And she sees these robed dudes, and she screams and hollers, and Jamie and Ben are like, "Oh, a woman!" And so they like turn back and run back down the hill, and they can't find Polly, and then all of a sudden they're ambushed by more robed figures who shoot them and put them in this tiny room, and Polly's all tied up, and they're just like, what's going on? What's going on? We don't know what to do. And then the door opens and the doctor's thrown in. So they're pretty thorough. Like, I don't know. They're really thorough with their capturing. So they...
And who is they, we wonder?
I don't know. We'll find out. So our four time travelers are in this tiny room, and the room starts to descend like an elevator, and then they basically can't breathe anymore, and they're like gassed. So they are unconscious. And then they wake up later in a compression chamber, and I don't know what that is. But they are like, oh, it's a compression chamber. And the doctor's like, oh, I wonder when we are, which I like the phrasing of, because it's not where, it's when.
Yeah, I like that too, because they don't ever answer that question, do they?
I think it's because she says the 70s, right?
It's sometime after 1970, because they find that bracelet from the Mexican Olympics.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so that, like, they have this conversation, and but they never really confirm anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we know. It's like we have like a week. We have a time stamp. It's like it's sometime after this.
Yeah.
Right.
So this guard comes in, and Polly starts speaking all these different languages at him, trying to interact with him, and she tries like French and German and Spanish and stuff, and he's just kind of standing there. And Jamie tries Gaelic, and I guess that's the final straw because the guard just kind of brandishes the spear, and they're just like, "Oh, keep walking." So they end up in this dining room area, and they're given this food made of plankton.
Yeah, and the doctor's about it.
Yeah, he's super into it, but everyone's just like, "Oh, plankton, that's weird."
He's like an anime character eating bread.
He's like,
he just...
Oh, no.
No, which kind of made me. I would like a future doctor to enjoy eating.
Oh, well, I don't know. I think Troughton and Pertwee are like super into eating.
Yeah, definitely Pertwee.
Because like it seems like all the modern doctors have had very picky palates, and it would be nice for a doctor to just totally be like an anime protagonist and just like love all food.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that because we're talking about Troughton though, because like when he comes back into Doctors with the Sixth Doctor, he just there's a plot point where he's just literally eating.
Nice.
It's awesome. So they eat their plankton, and this guard shows up, and he's kind of mean to this serving girl, and her name is Era. And the doctor's like, "Hey, that's not very nice," and the guard's just like, shrug. And
equality in Atlantis.
This priest shows up, and he's like, "Oh, our god prophesied visitors falling from the sky, and you are awesome." And you think it's gonna be like this Road to El Dorado kind of like.
Yeah, I was hardcore feeling like an Aztec vibe from like.
Yeah, but then just kidding, they're gonna sacrifice them. So they all get dragged away, and the doctor's like, "Oh, but I have something important I need to say," and he's just like, "Okay, say it before you die."
Sure.
And the doctor kind of pulls this name out of nowhere, and I don't understand how, but
it was from the food.
Oh, so this
the guy who made the food, he recognized the food.
That's so weird. So this Professor Zaroff guy, I guess the doctor's like chilled with him before. So the priest is just like, "Oh, how do you know Professor Zaroff?" And he's just like, "Yeah, food, I guess."
Oh, we're bros. We're old bros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smoke me out once.
So the priest is like, "Okay, cool, but you're still gonna die." So the doctor's kind of frantically kind of bargaining for his life, and he's like, "Well, will you at least send a note to him?" And the priest is like, "No." So the doctor kind of smuggles this note with this serving girl that he was nice to, and he's like, "Hey, will you send this to Zaroff before I die?" So they are now they're led to this temple area, which has these 4 stone slabs over like a shark pit.
Mm-hmm.
And think of the most James Bond thing.
Yeah,
it's literally that.
It's incredible that these Atlanteans, like, that's how they sacrifice people, is like evil James Bond villains, and their base is in a volcano. Like, I feel like that can't be ignored.
But it's not active anymore.
No, but it's still in a volcano.
That's true.
And the villain is a mad scientist, and they're trying to kill our heroes by throwing them into a vat of sharks.
I think that's like the coolest way to like go though, like in a pit of sharks in the middle of a volcano.
He also references in passing that he is in possession of an octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a pet octopus.
So I'm about this guy.
He's just a full-on... Everyone here is just... There's like... This story has like 7 Bond villains. It's
awesome.
It's amazing because there's like... Okay, so there's Dr. Bushy Eyebrows. There's Professor Crazy Eyes. There's Priest Goatee Face. There's the mayor, whatever that guy,
yeah, whatever
his deal is, and then there's the wetsuit swishy walk. And like they're all Bond villains, and it's amazing. My favorite thing. I love this story.
So they are on, Ben, Polly, and Jamie are all on these stone slabs, and they're kind of slowly tilting into the water, and the Doctor is also tied up, and you know, he's just like, don't freak out, and Polly's screaming, and Jamie's like trying not to die, and the Doctor's like, chill, and Polly just keeps and the serving girl, Ara?
It's usually the long R, so I'd say Aura.
So she goes to this mysterious professor's lab, and she gets stopped, and she runs into Crazy Eyebrows, as Scott has called him. I guess his name is Damon. This creepy doctor guy. So she's like, hey, I have a note for Professor Zaroff, and he's just like, oh, give me that. And so he like reads it, and it says, vital secret will die with me, period. Dr. period W. Period.
Which is a pretty intense note to get.
Yeah.
Also, he signs his name Doctor Who.
Dr. W.
Or is that a clue to his name?
No, early on in the show, like he's referred to as Doctor Who.
Remember Doctor Who in An Exciting Adventure with the Daleks?
I'll never forget it.
And Doctor Who and the Silurians?
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
So they're still in this. They're still in the time period where they don't know what they're doing yet.
I think it'd be cool if his name, after all this time, we like find out that his name was like Wayne.
Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Dr. Wayne.
So Bushy Eyebrows gives the note to Professor Crazy Eyes, and he's like, stop everything. And he wants to talk to the Doctor, and he's like, so what's this secret? And the Doctor's like, well, untie my friends and don't feed them to sharks, and I'll tell you. And he's like, all right, do the thing. And the Doctor kind of like butters this guy up, and he's just like, oh, you're the greatest scientist, and you faked your death, and blah, blah, blah. All this
oh my God, that scene where they're like laughing together is my favorite thing.
They're in the temple though, right? Still in front of all these people and the sharks.
Or yeah. And they're just like manically laughing together.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So then Zaroff's just like, okay, well, you know, thanks for stroking my ego, but you gotta die now. So what's your secret? And the Doctor's like, I don't have one. I just want to talk to you. And Zaroff's like, oh, ballsy.
Wayne.
Well, you can live.
My name is Wayne.
So the Doctor goes to talk with Zaroff more, and Jamie and Ben and Polly all get sent to this Bushy Eyebrows guy. So Jamie and Ben get sent to the mines because they're manly men that like to dig in the dirt. And this creepy guy, like, he shows Polly, I guess they're like looking out a window, and there's these weird fish people, and he's like, yeah, they have plastic gills so they can farm plankton for our food. And Polly's like, oh, that's really cool. And he's like, man, you're taking this news really well. And she's like, what news? And he's like, oh, you're going to be a fish person. So she like freaks out.
That's so all British children that go to the doctor.
Yeah. So meanwhile, the Doctor and Zaroff are talking, and the Doctor figures out that they are in Atlantis, as you do. And so Zaroff's like, yeah, so these crazy Atlanteans, I told them that I was going to raise their city for me, and they allowed me to practice science. Haha, they're stupid. And meanwhile, Ara comes in, and she's like, hey, Doctor, crazy guy's going to turn your friend into a fish person. And the Doctor's like, oh, you should stop that. I'm talking. And the Doctor kind of sends her back, and then Polly is like in a hospital robe, and she's like not strapped to a table, but she's being like restrained, and there's like this big needle, and he's just like, oh, you you'll wake up and you'll be a fish person, and then that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, there's a lot of Polly in distress. There's a lot of companion in distress in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Okay, so part 2.
Yes.
First of all, one of the things that I really like about our director here is that typically the go-to move with the cliffhangers. What?
You just you kind of jumped out at me vocally.
Oh, sorry. The go-to move with the cliffhangers is that you just repeat the stuff that happened at the end of the previous episode at the beginning of the next episode. You basically just showed the cliffhanger again and then resolve it. What I like about what was her name? Julia Smith. What I like about what Julia Smith does is that she always picks up the cliffhanger from a different place.
Yeah.
Where if she's forced to repeat the cliffhanger, she'll do it from a different angle so that it's not the same thing again. Yes. Which I really, really respect a lot. And so right from here, this story starts with Dr. Eyebrows pulling the syringe and then going to jab the syringe into Polly's arm, which he looks like a serial killer doctor in like a bad haunted house.
Yeah.
Because he's just holding her arm and then is going to stab the syringe in her arm. Like he's not doing like what you're actually supposed to do with a syringe.
Yeah, it's very like the Reanimator.
Yeah, it's really silly. Like no one taught him how to use a syringe.
He looks like he's going to be like on the cover of a box of cereal.
Yeah. Yeah. So the lights are flickering and he's like, "Oh, that's weird, but it's fine. I'm going to stab this." And then the helpers are helping him hold it down, and then it flickers some more and he's like, "You know what? I'm not going to be able to concentrate until I figure out what is going on with these lights. So I'm going to go figure this out."
Bugging me.
Yeah, and he's like, "You guys, watch her. I'll be back. We'll turn her into a fish, and then we'll get drinks later. It'll be fine." So he leaves to go figure out what's causing that. And then basically Professor Crazy Eyes, Zaroff, he is basically outlining what his plan is, because he said that he was allowed to practice science in Atlantis as long as he was able to raise Atlantis. And the doctor's looking at the blueprints of Atlantis and it's just like, dude, this place is way too big. Like there's no way that you're going to be able to lift this out of the water. And he's like, "You're right. That's why I'm going to drain the water. I'm going to lower the water level, and then it will appear as if I've raised Atlantis, but really I'm just lowering the water." And he's like, cool, yeah. How are you going to do that exactly? And Zaroff's like, "Yeah, so there's the crust." And the doctor's like, "Yeah, that's like 100 miles." And he's like, "Yeah, so we're going to drill through the crust, and then we're going to put the water below that." And he's like, "I don't think that's going to work." And he's like, "I think you might be wrong." And the doctor's like, "No, like if you did that, it would just destroy the planet. I mean, it would like crack the planet in half and everything would be terrible and it would be all your fault." And he's like, "It would be, but I would be the greatest scientist of all time." And he's like, I don't know if that logic, I'm not following your logic there, pal. And he's like, "No. So if I destroy the planet and I'm responsible, and there's no more scientists, that makes me the best scientist. And I'm just like, that seems weird to me. I don't know if I like that thought process. He's like, well, I don't really care what you like. I'm going to be the best scientist that's ever lived. He's like, okay, well, all right. So he starts backing away because Eyebrows comes in to demand what's going on with the flickering lights. Doctor backs away to this machine, and he overhears that he's doing surgery on Polly, and he's like, okay, so I got to figure out how to save Polly. So he yanks something out of a machine, which cuts the power. And they both look at him when it happens, and he gives them this look like, he gives them sort of like a who, me face. Yeah. It's like this innocent who, me face, but it's so over the top. It's just like, why are you looking at me? I'm just a baby. Like it's really over the top.
Because he's still holding the thing. Like
he's still holding the part that he pulled off.
It's so funny.
Oh my god, it's so funny. And so then the lights go out on Polly. And she's in the dark. The two guys like run off because they're trying to figure out why the lights went out. And then one of the helpers, she runs over to Polly and was like, "Here, I'll help you get out." And then they run off together. And then the professor and the surgeon dude are like confronting the doctor, and the doctor's like, I don't know. It was an accident. It just fell off. and the doctor's like, I don't even have patience for this because you're lying so poorly. Like you sir are no baby. You are not a baby. And he walks away. And the doctor's like, but I am a baby. and then the professor's just like, clever you. I'm going to destroy the planet. And the doctor's like, we really got to talk about this. So then basically we go down into the mines where they're drilling the hole, and Ben and Jamie meet these two guys named Sean and Jacko, and there's like a dictator, like foreman guy who like doesn't like really, he like overworks all of them and everything. And what you find out is basically that these guys are like finding just like randos, like that just like wash up in like crashed ships and stuff, and they just steal these randos and put them to work, like make them slaves for Atlantis. And so these two guys are like two of those like slaves or whatever, and so they're like working, and Jamie and Ben are like helping them out or whatever, and they're going to use a compass. They have this compass, and they're going to use it to break out of the mines. And that's what Ben and Jamie are doing while all this other stuff is going on. So then, let's see. Man, a lot of stuff happens in this episode. Because he would be the best at science. Oh man,
he wins.
What? It's just he wins because everyone else is dead, as it should be. Best villain plotline ever, I think. So let's see. So okay. So Troughton does this thing where, to get away from Professor Crazy Eyes, he's like, hey, have I shown you this? And the guy's like, what? He's like, well, yeah. So like when you do this, right? And then you do this, and he's like, this happens. And then there's smoke, and then he runs away.
Yeah. He dumps a vial into another vial, and then he's like, bye.
Yeah. It's such a Troughton move. Like, that's like, I feel like that's his like defining characteristic as the Doctor, is like he does these little distraction games. Mm-hmm. Like playing the cards, you know, and just stuff like that. Like he's always doing little things where he just does like a little thing and makes a distraction. Instead of like blowing up a building or something, he just does sort of like look over there, and then he just runs. Which is my favorite thing about Troughton. I love that. So then Troughton's out and about, and he's following the wetsuit waddle guy and through the caves, and then wetsuit waddle guy walks off, and Troughton puts on like some slickers, like a black like raincoat like slicker, and then a hat, like a fisherman hat, but it's all black. And he hides from the priest and the doctor dude. It's the doctor dude, right? It's not the professor, is it?
Yeah, it's the crazy surgeon guy.
Yeah, Eyebrows.
Yeah.
So Eyebrows and the priest guy come down, and he's like, yeah, we got to find that doctor dude. He like ran off, and the doctor's just like hiding behind some rocks, and he runs into the one of the helper ladies, and he's like, okay, so they're looking for Polly, and the priest guy's looking for me. Can you tell the Eyebrows? Can you tell Eyebrows that like you found Polly and like lead him somewhere so I can talk to the priest guy alone? And she's like, sure, I've never met you before, and then walks off.
No, that's the same girl that's been helping him the whole time.
Wait, I thought she was helping Polly.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh, I saved Polly. And he's like, I have another thing for you to do.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Fair enough. So she goes and gets Eyebrows out of there, and then he goes and talks to the priest guy, and the priest guy at first is going to like run off and tell somebody that he found the doctor, even though he was like the one that was looking for him. And he's like, no, listen to me. The professor guy's crazy. He wants to blow up the planet. He's like, that seems weird. And he's like, no, it's serious. You don't trust him, right? No. Well, I don't trust him. Okay. He's like, so we should trust each other. And they're like, yeah, I guess that checks out. So they're buds now. And he takes him into another room, and he's like, yeah, he's like, okay, so like, here's what I wear as a priest. Now you put it on, and Troughton puts it on, and he's very excited about cosplaying as a priest, as an Atlantis priest. And he puts it on, and he asks the priest how he looks, and the priest is like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, never mind. He's very disappointed that no one's going to tell him he looks good in that priest outfit. And then we're back down in the mines, and Jamie falls off a cliff, and there's this moment where Ben and one of the other dudes are trying to pull Jamie up in the cliff, and it's a really big struggle for the two of them to pull him up. And I gotta say, I really respect the struggle here, because typically when you watch stuff and somebody falls off and they lift them up, it's usually done like really easily.
Yeah.
You know, like they just kind of pull them up, and it's like, okay, pulling up a human being with one arm would be like almost impossible.
Right. I was watching this and I was like, oh man, that's not how you pick somebody up. You're going to dislocate your shoulder.
Right. Yeah. But you feel it here. Whereas like in most stuff, you just watch them do it and you're like, oh, okay, I don't think that would be that easy. So I really like the struggle that they have here. I think that's really good. And then at one point they have to do some ADR with Jamie where he's like, I think I have a foot holding, because at one point he's obviously standing on something. And so they had to like ADR that in. I really liked that. That was really great. And then the priest takes the doctor to talk to the king of Atlantis. And he's like, okay, listen, the professor dude is crazy. And he's like, how do you know he's crazy? Because when he talks, his eyes light up like this. And he looks at the king with crazy eyes, and he's like, okay, well, I'm not into all this that you've got going on. I've already called the professor. Here he is now. Professor, do with them as you will. And then that's how part 2 ends. Yes. So I gotta say, of all the episodes to get back, I'm glad that it's part 2, because part 2 is awesome.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for something that happens in part 3, but we'll get to it.
Right. But like, yeah, definitely. I love a lot of the craziness of part 3, but like part 2 has so much running around in it. And I mean, we get all of like the great doctor. We get the Doctor in 2 different outfits.
Yeah,
in part
honestly,
2.
yeah, honestly, if I'm not mistaken, unless I can't really remember if the first story was like this, but I know for sure the Highlanders wasn't a real episode. You know what I mean? You know, like a proper episode. So I think this is my first time seeing Troughton like moving and talking at the same time.
You're right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this is the earliest existing Troughton episode.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was fun finally getting to see, you know, I don't want to say what the fuss was about, but, you know, he is kind of one of the more celebrated doctors. So, yeah, it was cool getting to see him in action. I saw a lot of 12 in him, or like, you know, I saw a lot of like what Capaldi must have drawn inspiration from, you know. So that was interesting. And yeah, it was just
it's actually Matt Smith is who pulls like all of his inspiration for his Doctor comes from Troughton.
Yes, and I didn't see that so much in this story, but or at least me personally, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of him.
Yeah, Troughton's great.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more? How many more like fully missing stories do we have of Troughton?
Fully missing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's at least one episode. I could be wrong though. But I think there's at least one episode that exists for.
Are there any existing stories in Evil of the Daleks?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I think one part might exist.
Okay.
Because I know, like, the Yetis in the Underground, that episode exists.
Right.
And then the rest of it doesn't. And then maybe Fury from the Deep doesn't.
Okay.
Which is sad, because Fury from the Deep is really good. But it's been a while since I've Troughtoned.
I love Troughton.
So good.
So tell us about part 3, Nick.
I would love to. So, part 3 opens with the Doctor trying to protect Rambo from telling from telling him that he has been tricked by the Doctor. But Ramo stands up for himself and says that, you know, Zaroff's kind of a tool. I never liked him. He's a silly man. And so the Doctor and Ramo are led away to be fed to the sharks. Meanwhile, Zaroff turns to the king of Atlantis and says, like, hey, you know, just, you know, literally everything that dude was saying was, like, not true. I'm like, you know, you're my ride or die. Like, I'm not going to try and mess up our relationship. And the Doctor's like, okay, cool. I trust you. You seem like a trustworthy dude. Your name's Zaroff. So the Doctor and Ramo are brought by the High Priest and presented to the idol of something called Amdo. And they're about to be beheaded and sacrificed and fed to the sharks, as is the Atlantean way. When a voice seems to emit from the statue of Amdo, and it's like, bow your heads, you Atlantean shits. And the Doctor's like right away is like, oh, that's Polly. But he doesn't say anything.
I love that it's Polly.
Yeah, it's really...
That's my favorite part, because you think it's... Because it does it, and then Ben pokes his head out, and it's like, it's me.
Yeah.
But then it's not. It's Polly. Polly's the one on the mic being like, oh!
I like it, though. I like that Polly gets to do something other than get captured.
Oh, it's my favorite. I love that it's Polly. That's... Oh, that's great. And this head, it looks like the head from Legends of the Hidden Temple. Like,
yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
I would love to go back and figure out what this does to Atlantean culture, and that like the voice of their deity is that of a woman.
Well, I think it's a goddess anyway.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it has an O at the end of it, so I just assume that it's a boy god. But that's my stuff. That's my cultural baggage that I have to deal with.
That's true.
So
prepare for the wrath of the silver snakes and the purple monkeys.
Do the physical challenge. Oh man, I always wanted to. That show always looked really fun, except for the part where those grown men in costumes would come and just like get all in the personal space of the kids and like carry them away.
That always bothered me when I was a kid too.
I was like, that doesn't look fun at all. Like these weird grown-ups are just like groping you and carrying you.
Yeah.
That like would not happen today.
No.
I always wanted one kid to just like shiv one of those guys like on instinct.
You guys gonna watch the Legends of the Hidden Temple movie?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. That's gonna be weird.
What team would the Doctor be on?
Probably depend on the Doctor.
That's true. 11 would totally be a blue one.
Blue one. Yeah, Capaldi's a silver snake, no question.
Faster! Good. Anyway, so they rise from their prayer and realize that the Doctor and Rambo are gone, and Lolam is like, "It's a miracle! It's a miracle!" And the statue has a mouthpiece that was designed for people to sound like their words are coming from the idol, which raises a lot of questions. But
about Atlantis culture,
yeah. But we don't really
I
have
just
time.
love the idea that generations of priests have just been too lazy to clean behind the statue, and so none of them know that it's not real.
Yeah. It's very some one day like a young Atlantean kid is going to like be like just dicking around by that god statue and notice the mouthpiece and just like, oh my god, it's all a lie. It's all been a lie.
And now I can be king.
No, I can be God. I become God.
I'm the leader now.
We can be gods.
Look at me. Look at me. I am your god now.
Send the gold to Xibalba. Anyway. So meanwhile, Zaroff is talking to Thaus and saying that he only needs 2 more days for his deeply stupid, flawed plan to come to fruition. The High Priest enters and tells them about the miracle. As Zaroff is like, "That's not a miracle. Your gods aren't even real. That must have been a trick or something." And orders that Atlantis be searched, even though Thaus is like, "I don't know. Sounds like a miracle to me."
Yeah.
And Zaroff's like, "No, it's for sure not, because your deities are false. None of them are real. I hate to break it to you."
What's that? What's the guy that the guy everybody hates? That's he's like an ultra left. That everyone, Bill Maher.
Oh, Bill Maher, yeah.
He's pulling a real Bill Maher. This guy.
Your gods is not real. Muslim people aren't smart, because if they were smart, they would be white.
My God.
Oh my God.
Professor Bill Maher.
Oh God, that'd be terrible. Bill Maher would be a great Doctor Who villain, actually. Women. Anyway, sorry.
He's the worst.
Yeah. So inside of the idol, the Doctor is scheming up with a plan. Sean and Jacko, who I love, will convince the fish people to stop supplying the plankton to Atlantis, and then everyone else will carry off Zarkov. So the Doctor and Polly disguise themselves as Atlanteans in the marketplace, while Jamie and Benjamin disguise themselves as guards. So they manage to avoid all the real guards, and they trick Zaroff away, and they lead him into the temple where they capture him. Just need a minute. So meanwhile, Sean and Jacko come to a cliff where the fish people are. There's really no other way to say it. They're kind of like they're bathing, kind of like, mermaids in Peter Pan style.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sean just kind of insults them for 5 minutes. And he's like, look at you. You stupid fish people. You're slaves. You're all slaves. You're a bunch of dirty slaves. You used to be fish people and now you're just slaves. And the fish people.
And before that, you were regular people.
And now you're fish people. Because you got needles.
Fish people were also slaves.
Yes, yeah,
He's not very good at
and the
insults.
And the fish people are like, he's right.
Throw rocks at him.
Throw rocks at him. So Zaroff is telling the Doctor that all of this is for naught, that he's going to raise Atlantis and crack the Earth in two. And the Doctor's like, we'll see about that because I'm the Doctor. And I invented this. So Zaroff gets angry and he starts like throwing a weird fit. The Doctor takes Ben and Jamie to the laboratory to check on Zaroff's progress, while Polly and Ramo are like making sure that Zaroff doesn't do anything. Meanwhile, a service is going on outside so that the Doctor and his companions can hide until it's finished. Meanwhile, inside the idol, Zaroff is like, hey, look, about all that stuff I said earlier, I don't mean it. Would you like to pray with me?
Yeah.
I know I said a bunch of stuff about your gods not being real, but I was wrong. It's really real. Would you like to pray with me? Would you just just pray with me? Ramo's like, well, I mean, who am I to turn away a prayer? Atlantean Jesus says that, one that turns away from, he that falls from the, anyway. So like, yeah, they're, and Polly's like, yeah, go ahead, pray with me. I mean, I'm from England. I kind of have I don't really have a firm relationship with my God anyway, so you can kind of do whatever. So, so like a scuffle breaks out between them, and Zaroff literally stabs Ramo and holds Polly hostage. So Polly's back doing her thing. So meanwhile, the service has finished, and so the Doctor decides that he and Jamie should go back and ask Ramo for directions. Meanwhile, Ramo kind of comes out having been stabbed and says, hey, the old come pray with me trick. I fell for it. Now I die. So he dies. The Doctor sends Jamie after Polly whilst he and Ben go back to the laboratory. Jamie catches up with Polly and saves him from Zarboff. Fight breaks out between them. Zaroff appears to have the upper hand, but then Sean and Jacko come in and join the fight, and then Zaroff goes and hides in the cave. And Polly decides that they need that handmaiden, Aura, to help reunite them and the Doctor. So, back at the council chamber, the king is informed by Damon, remember him, of the revolt of the fish people. Speaking of that, earlier, something amazing happened.
Mm-hmm.
The fish people staged a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to okay, so if you go on our Twitter account at TDC Pod, I uploaded like a little 20-second video clip of them doing this, but they're kind of just, it's this really kind of beautiful, bizarre, kind of haunting montage of the fish people like dancing and swimming towards the camera while this like really eerie electronic score is playing.
Yeah.
It's like something that would play at a drug party in the 60s, like in the background. So that happens, and it's really special to me. So Damon's like, hey, the fish are doing some weird stuff. You might want to like check it out. And then Zaroff enters, and he goes, no, forget the fish people. They're stupid and they should all be killed. And Thaus is like, well, all right. I'm not into that. So like, you're not the king, so I'm going to arrest you. And then Zoroff kills. Wait, does he kill? Yeah, he shoots Thaus, and then he kills 2 of the guards. And he's like, now that I'm the king, nothing will stop me, and I'm going to crack the earth like an egg. And that's where episode 3 ends.
He says, nothing in the world can stop me now, which is the second time a cliffhanger in Classic Who has used a very similar phrase.
Yeah, but that one is like the best.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. That's what's so weird, because it's exactly the same cliffhanger, except the difference is who's saying it and why.
Right.
And I just find that really interesting. I don't know. But
I wish we were watching that instead of this.
I mean, you could say that about literally any story.
That's true.
I don't know. Do they have weird fish people dances?
No, but they have cave dinosaurs.
Aren't they like giant bats?
Yeah, whatever it is they are. I don't know. Cave beasts. And a Mexican wrestler villain.
Oh, frick.
Did you say villain or villa?
Villain.
Oh, okay, I thought you said a Mexican wrestler villa.
Just the villa full of just luchadors.
That would be incredible.
Hello.
Hola.
Welcome. It's the best.
All right.
Bring us home.
Bring us home, Cass.
Okay. So
Part 4.
The Doctor and Ben discover all these bodies left in Zoroff's crazy wake. And the 2 guards that he shot are dead, but I guess the king is only wounded, which is convenient. So they drag him back to the temple. And Sean and Jacko are just kind of standing there. They're like, I don't know what to do. Let's just leave. And the Doctor drags the king back, and he's like, we gotta stop Zoroff. He's crazy. He's about to do the thing. We gotta stop him. So the Doctor is going to instead flood the rest of Atlantis in order to keep Zoroff from blowing up the world, which is the craziest sentence I've said today. He's like, okay, you, Sean, and Jacko, you are going to be on evacuation duty, and me and Ben are gonna flood Atlantis. So Zoroff hears that all these workers that are supposed to be digging through the Earth's crust for him are freaking out because there's now a food shortage because the plankton that the fish people harvest for them and Zoroff turns into food only lasts for like 2 hours, so you can't store any of it. So now there's like now a famine. So everyone's freaking out, and it's like Mad Max. They're just like scavenging for food and like killing each other and stuff. And so Ben and the Doctor, they sneak into the generating station where the drill is. And Ben's dressed as a guard again, and he pretends that he captured the Doctor, and they knock out this guy who's just doing his job. And they make I guess there's like a nuclear reactor in all of this too. So there's not only like a drill and people mining, but there's also a nuclear reactor. So they make the reactor overload before going back to Zoroff's lab to confront him. And Jamie and Polly are kind of wandering through the caves, and trying to find a way out. And there's like radiation, and the wall starts to crumble and water starts to flood, because of just stuff that's happening. And they need to get out of there before they drown. So they choose this path, and it's going to be awesome, but it's a dead end. And So Sean and Jacko are doing their civic duty and trying to get everybody out, but then they hear this rumbling and they're like, oh, time to leave. And Damon, bushy eyebrows surgeon, is just kind of there, and he's just like, oh, my life's work, it's all ruined. And they escape. The temple's destroyed because just everything is shaking and crumbling. The king is wounded and dying, and he's like, oh, the priest was in there, and they're just like, whatever, leave him.
No,
the high priest guy, who we like never interacted once. But
oh no.
So Zaroff is kind of freaking out because the reactor is overloading and ruining everything. So he's like, okay, I wanted to do this 2 days from now, but we're going to do it now. I'm going to break the world. So it's going to happen in 5 minutes. And the doctor shows up and he's like, hey, so you guys that are still working for this crazy guy, you know what Zaroff's going to do, right? And they're just like, what, really? And he's like, yeah. And so they leave. So Zaroff is just kind of alone, and he locks himself in his lab with all the controls. And he's like, now you can never stop me. I'm going to blow up the world, and I'm going to do it by myself. And like, it's the craziest thing.
You stupid assholes.
Yeah. He literally like locks himself out. There's no way of escaping. He's just going to blow up the world. So Ben hears the water flooding in, and he's like, Doctor, I'm out. And so
I'm just gonna leave.
He's like, oh, it's been nice knowing you. I'm leaving now. So the doctor is kind of still trying to get Zaroff to reason with him, even though he's literally crazy. And Zaroff's like, I'm gonna push the button, and the doctor's like, well, it's hard to do that when it's in the dark, and he pulls the plugs again, which is the best. And Zaroff's like, oh, you're silly. So he unlocks the lab. I guess there's like a gate or like a wall or a partition. So the wall comes up, and he has a gun again. And he's like, okay, well, I want to be able to see the world explode, so I'm going to turn the lights back on. And Ben comes back, and like I don't even know what he does, but he pushes Zaroff out of the way and locks.
We should state that this is another lost episode. We didn't actually see this one.
So
right, yeah.
There's a scuffle. So Ben shows up and knocks Zaroff down, and it triggers the partition in his lab. So Zaroff is now locked in his lab, but not where the controls are. So he is just out of luck, and Ben and the doctor leave. And the doctor's like, hey, so maybe we shouldn't murder this guy, even though he's crazy. But there's a convenient rock fall, so they have to go on their way. And
like, oh,
the water, the water, like rises, and it's really kind of
like, the water rises.
I don't know. It's kind of weird because for a lot of the reconstruction, there's little bits of film that were censored from some of the episodes where they aired. So anything particularly violent or just scary, which is like the best parts, they exist. So there's this part where you can see him, Zaroff, kind of reaching through this gate trying to hit the big red button to make the world explode. But this water is just kind of rising, and he just goes under, and then that's the last you see of him. So it's really, I don't know, it's kind of visceral. So that they save the day, but they, flood Atlantis, and Polly and Jamie find a way out. They've been wandering through the caves, and they finally find a way out, and they reach the surface eventually. And Jamie's like, hey, so I know we just met, but it's probably like the doctor and Ben probably drowned, so we're stuck together. Hey, girl.
Girl.
Hey, girl. Your friends are dead, but I'm here. So the Atlanteans start coming to the surface, and they escape, and we have our Atlantean friends, Era and the King and the bushy eyebrows, and they're like, oh man, the Doctor's probably dead. So the King, he wants to create a memorial for the Doctor, but the bushy eyebrow guy is just like, none of your idol worship. Where this is the new Atlantis now, where it's science and stuff. And so
it's like that weird society that Neil deGrasse Tyson keeps trying to push on us. Imagine a world where everyone
it's like Plato's
uses
Republic
logic all the time.
Yeah.
Rationalia. That's what it's called.
Rationalia.
Oh God, that's literally Plato's Republic. But so Ben and the Doctor, despite all the odds, do not drown, and they make their way up. And Ben's like, "Oh man, I wonder if Polly's alive." And they kind of just mourn the Doctor and Ben around the TARDIS, and then the Doctor and Ben are like, "Hey, we're alive!" So they're like, "Oh, that's awesome!" So they leave in the TARDIS. And
don't leave without Petrie.
Yeah. And Jacko and Sean are just like, oh, that's weird. It's a police box. Look, it's disappearing. How about that? And they're in the TARDIS, and Jamie's like, hey, man, I have no idea what happened, but it's been fun. It's been real. And they joke about the Doctor not being able to control the TARDIS, and everyone has a laugh about it. And then he, like fiddles with something on the console, and then the TARDIS just freaks out, and then that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, they're like, the TARDIS is having a freak out.
I love the bit where Jamie's just like, so what did you think of your first adventure? And he's like, well, as you may have noticed, I don't know a great many things. And I don't know how this thing works. So that's not really any different from any other thing I don't know, so I'll just accept it. It's fine.
Right, yeah.
I love that.
I'll just roll
love Jamie. Oh, Jamie is the best.
Don't know much about history.
Yeah.
Don't know much biology.
This was some good Jamie. I'm actually... I'm sad that we're covering the moon base next because it means no Jamie, or at least very minimal Jamie.
Oh, is Jamie in the next thing we're covering?
I mean, in the next second Doctor story.
Oh, okay.
Is he not in that?
He's asleep the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome though. He's just asleep the whole time.
Yeah, he's like in a cyber coma or.
Oh, okay. I just wanted it to just be that he was asleep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a bummer. They waste no time getting back to those Cybermen.
Yeah, they really think we like those. Yeah,
because he just had the story where Troughton regenerates as or that Hartnell regenerates into Troughton is a Cybermen story, and now we're like 3 episodes later, we're gonna be in Cybermen territory again.
Yeah,
which is
that's Cybermen country.
Yeah.
I'm sad Tomb of the Cybermen is so far away because
it's so far away.
That's like my favorite Cybermen story, I think.
Yeah.
That's exciting because I don't have one yet.
Yeah, Tomb of the Cybermen is really good. It probably is the best one. I mean, I can't offhand think of a better one, so yeah.
The Invasion's also really good, but
oh man, that's true.
It's good for different reasons.
That is very true. Man, that would be tough to get between. God, he technically has like 3 Cybermen stories. Is that right?
He has more than 3, I think.
Moonbase.
Because isn't there another one with Zoe? I don't remember.
Tomb of the Cybermen.
Because I think the little cyberbug things.
Aren't those in Tomb of the Cybermen?
I think so. Oh, isn't Zoe's first episode a Cyberman story?
What episode is that?
Wheel in Space.
Oh, yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right, so there you go. 4.
The Wheel
Anyway.
of Space.
Good old Cyberman.
Oh, we didn't talk about my favorite moment in this entire story.
Oh.
Which is when they're chanting and then they stop chanting and Ben, Jamie, and the Doctor all have those stupid fish masks and they all rise up above the wall at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best.
My favorite part, I think, is, there's a lot, but I really love the bit where they're first being taken away. The Doctor and the priest guy are being taken away into the room to get decapitated.
Yeah.
And as they're walking away, the professor is like, okay, well, bye, Doctor. This is what you get for, being a real pain in my ass. The doctor's like, oh, but we'll see each other again. And he's like, no, you'll be dead. He's like, I don't think I will. He's like, no, you're definitely gonna be dead. And he's like, until I see you again. He's like, you will not be alive anymore. Like, they just keep going back and forth.
They just don't. They each need to be the person that has the final word.
It's so good. I love it.
I like the part where the fish people were swimming.
Yeah.
Because it was funny, but also a little scary.
Yeah, they were creepy.
Yeah, there's some creepy looking. They kind of. Did you guys ever see a movie called A Town Called Panic?
Mm-mm.
It's like a weird little stop motion French movie about a horse named Horse. But at one point they go underwater and they find like mer people, and they kind of look like these.
Oh, that's
the reason
fun.
I know how to say the word horse in French. Cheval.
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
Because that's his name, and they say it a bunch.
All right. Well,
what's next, Scott and Cassandra?
Next is the most metal Doctor Who title of all time.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ambassadors of Death.
The Ambassadors of Death. Yeah.
Is this the first story that was directed by a woman?
No, she had directed another one before this.
Which one?
Yeah. I already closed the tab,
Cass. Sorry. I'll look.
Tomb of the Women.
I forget.
Oh, The Smugglers.
The Smugglers, yeah. Okay.
Rachel Talali is directing some episodes of the DCW this year.
Yeah, I saw that. I think she's already done that.
I think, she directed an episode of The Flash I haven't seen yet because it's season 2.
Right.
Yeah, I'm bummed. I don't know who's directing Captain Marvel, but I'm sad that it's not Talali. I don't even think she was ever in the running, but.
Yeah, it should be her.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bummer. I don't think they've said that it's not her, have they?
I don't remember her like being on the short list.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you remember, I mean, there was a lot of people on the Black Panther short list, and none of them got it.
Mm-hmm.
Went to someone else. So
went to Ryan Coogler.
Right.
Man who turned down
the rightful king.
The rightful king of Wakanda. Man that turned down an invitation to the Academy because he was like, nah, son.
Wow. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that seems weird.
He had a cool reason. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Was it because he felt that he was only getting the offer because he's black?
No, I think he was like, I would feel weird like voting on like other artists.
Oh. Okay.
He was like, I would feel weird like choosing over people.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. Yeah, so we'll be back with the Ambassadors of Death. We'll be covering parts 1 through 3 next week. It's another 7-parter. So 1 through 3 next week, and then 4 through 7 the week after that. Ambassadors of Death is phenomenal. some really good Third Doctor action. So that'll be a really fun one. Really looking forward to watching that. Really looking forward to it. So we'll be doing that next week. In the meantime, you can go to our website, duelinggenre.com, where you can check out our other podcasts like Back to the Future Minute and now Lord of the Rings Minute.
Yeah.
Cassandra's been Cassandra and Norman. They've got Lord of the Rings Minute. It's a really great show. Check that out. It's I would say it's like hanging out with Cassandra on Sundays, but you guys all know what that's like because you do it every week.
That's true. It's a different vibe. It's a much different vibe.
It's a much different vibe. It's really, really great though. So go check that out if you like Lord of the Rings, or even if you just like the movies. Like, it's really interesting because I've never read the books. So
what?
I don't like high fantasy. We've been over this.
Okay, we'll save it for when you're guesting.
Yeah. So I've never read the books. I've just seen the movies, and so like listening to them talk about like all the crazy nerd Silmarillion stuff is like really cool. Because I learned a lot. It's fun. So definitely go check that out. Back to the Future Minute's on hiatus until next year, but we'll be back with part 3 next year. Geek by Night should be hopefully back from hiatus by now, by the time this comes out, or is just about to, something like that. Definitely the month of October for sure.
Oh, good.
So that's Geek by Night. Go check that out. Go to duelinggenre.com/support and you'll go to our Patreon page and you can see all of our stretch goals. We've recently lowered our stretch goal for the Doctor's Companion live episode, so we're going to do that at the $500 level.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We lowered that so that, hopefully we can entice some people to get on board for that. If we do a live episode, we'll live stream the episode, and we'll be talking about the Peter Cushing as Doctor Who, a man named Doctor Who, in Doctor Who and the Daleks.
And I'll probably be Peter Cushing when we record that.
It's going to roll on past. You can email the show, contact@thedoctorscompanion.us. We're on Twitter at TDC Pod. We're on Tumblr, though I never use it because I'm bad at it. But I need. Don't you have the Doctor's Companion Tumblr?
Yeah.
Maybe Cass would be more apt at it.
Am I like the social media ambassador of death?
At least for TDC, I think you should be. But
okay, I love my game.
Okay. And of course, a special thanks to our Patreon associate producer, Leaper182. And we'll be back next week with the Ambassadors of Death.